You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. And you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we can walk it out. Ooh.
This west side neighborhood of Chicago has a rich history to tell, and the people are taking a stand to make it known that they are proud of their neighborhood and its history. East Garfield Park has a reputation of high crime rates and violence. East Garfield Park was a pinnacle scene in the civil rights movement and still today as a symbol of how far we have come and how much more work lies ahead of us. East Garfield Park was first annexed in 1869 as a new neighborhood, but was a rural area west of the Loop. Originally named Central Park, it was renamed after President Garfield was assassinated in 1881. It wasn't until the Great Chicago Fire in 1871 that more people moved out of the city and into neighborhoods like Garfield Park from fear of another fire. There was little transportation and a lot of wide open spaces. It wasn't until about 20 to 30 years after the fire that the CTA reached the west side and the population farther grew. East Garfield Park was primarily a residential area with some usual neighborhood businesses, restaurants, dry cleaners, bakeries, and tailors. There were not many jobs or industries in the area. In the 1900s, the next wave of residents to East Garfield Park consisted of some Italian and a few Russian Jewish immigrants, but many were second and third generation American-born citizens, so the neighborhood was never identified by any one ethnicity, as some other Chicago neighborhoods were. In the 20s and 30s, a group of people from the University of Chicago divided the city of Chicago into 77 communities. East Garfield Park is labeled as number 27. Each community contributes something to the culture and history of our great city. Very little was documented about East Garfield Park, and so historians like Dr. Peter Alter from the Chicago History Museum and Breakthrough Urban Ministries have stood up to reach and fill in this missing piece of history in Chicago through a great project called 40 Blocks. Alderman Jason Irvin said, "We have great history, great treasures. A lot of people on the south side originally lived on the west side. The west side has great history and great people," he added. "And while we've had some changes, we are communities that are definitely on the incline." The parish of Our Lady of Sorrows was founded in 1874, and a brick church was built. Soon a much larger church was needed, and on June 17, 1890, ground was broken for the first Italian Renaissance-style church we see today. In 1956, Pope Pius XII granted to Our Lady of Sorrows National Shrine the title of Basilica. The Garfield Park Conservatory was built between 1906 and 1908, still remains a highlight of the neighborhood today, designed by a famous landscape architect, John Jensen. It has 10 acres of outdoor gardens and 2 acres of public greenhouse space, known as one of Chicago's best-kept secrets and one of the nation's botanical treasures. In the 1920s, the conservatory was very popular, with 500,000 visitors per year. As the neighborhood declined, started the attendance to the conservatory, and the building began to deteriorate. In 1994, the Chicago Park District responded with a multi-million-dollar plan to restore the conservatory and also open new exhibits. In 2011, a hailstorm damaged the roof badly of the conservatory, and much fundraising and time went into repairs. They reopened, and the conservatory is once again on its way to being a popular destination in Chicago and a site for special occasions and weddings. There was a small period of time the neighborhood enjoyed some growth. Many soldiers came home post-World War II and looked for new communities to move into. The neighborhood consisted of 2 flats and courtyard apartments, as well as some single-family homes. There was a bowling alley, theater, hotel, restaurants, and stores. The Senate Theater opened at 3128 West Madison Street in 1921. With 3,097 seats, there were larger and grand movie places on the other side of Garfield Park, but the Senate managed to outlast them. The Senate closed around 1970 and was boarded in 1976, it was torn down. The Graymer Hotel was a West Side landmark located on the northeast corner of Holman Avenue and Washington Boulevard, across from Garfield Park. The Graymer opened in 1923. The East Garfield Park neighborhood declined in the decade after World War II. Plans to convert the hotel to low-income housing never happened, and the building was torn down in 1977. Built in 1928, originally as the headquarters for the West Park Commission, the Garfield Park Fieldhouse is commonly known as the Gold Dome Building. This historic fieldhouse holds a gymnasium, auditorium, dance studio, fitness center, boxing center, grand ballroom, and meeting rooms. This building remains another proud point of East Garfield Park and a draw to many for cultural activities. The population quickly grew during the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, but there were almost no new construction. The population of East Garfield Park grew to 70,091 people by 1950. The resulting housing shortages caused many single-family homes and other buildings to be split up into smaller kitchenette apartments. In the late 1940s and 50s, the neighborhood started to change.
African American soldiers who were getting out of the military were also looking around really the main neighborhood on the south side where they had grown up before going into the military, and also decided that they didn't really want to live there anymore. And so African Americans started to live in other neighborhoods beyond a specific one called Brownsville on the south side. And so what happens then is actually East Garfield Park is one of the early neighborhoods on the west side where African Americans start to move in. And there's a lot of resistance by the whites who still live there, who haven't white flighted yet. And so there's street violence, there's bombings, there's shootings, there's stabbings, basically by whites trying to keep their neighborhood segregated. That is, to try and keep African Americans from moving in.
The Eisenhower Expressway was built between 1949 and 1961, displacing 13,000 people and 400 businesses. Many white citizens, especially the Jewish community, moved to the suburbs. This is when the neighborhood began to change. Madison Street began facing difficulties by the 1960s, when many residents started traveling outside the community for their shopping. The corners of Madison and Pulaski, as well as Madison and Western, remained important shopping areas for the community. Martin Luther King Jr. spent significant time in East Garfield Park and spoke publicly in a neighborhood church. East Garfield Park played a role in the civil rights movement. The riots that followed the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in April 1968 caused the destruction of many homes and businesses. Through the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, there was a sharp decrease in population and many older buildings were torn down. The population decreased to 20,881 in 2000. Demolition has left the neighborhood with vacant land and a 47% decrease in housing units from the peak in 1960. The neighborhood has also become a food desert. The only grocery stores are convenience stores in East Garfield Park. Healthy options in produce is scarce. The people who live there are very proud of their neighborhood, proud of the actual park, the neighborhood's role in civil rights movements, proud of the conservatory, proud of the Gold Dome Fieldhouse, proud of the historic basilica. At the same time, they also recognize there is a lot of struggles, poverty, a food desert, and a lot of street violence. Parents can't let their kids go on walks or ride their bikes at school. They are trying to stand up and trying to show East Garfield Park isn't a horrible place to live. While crime rates may scare people, the people of this community want everyone to know this is not a terrible place to live. It is a community and is reflected by the people who remain there today, and it is rich history. Through education and public awareness, it is my hope that government officials will fund and implement plans to help bring the west side of our city back.
I rise up, I rise like the day, I rise up.